Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you into another Birdies conversation. Angel City has partnered with Birdies for this talk series to discuss important topics to help women and honestly all people, rise up both professionally and personally. Every conversation features an Angel City representative. Today, you get me, Jennifer Pransky, our head of content, along with two amazingly special guests. And today, we are here to talk about how we can be healthier and be more mindful of our wellness every day and specifically during challenging times. So let's introduce the people that you really need to hear from today. First of all, I would like to welcome Dr. Merije Chukamerije, the board certified doctor of internal medicine and cardiovascular medicine with special interest in sports and exercise, working at Cedar, Sinai. Quick question to you, doctor. How did you decide to focus on internal and cardiology?
Internal medicine kind of had to get to cardiology, which was my first and immediate passion. Is funny enough, it was Black History Month when I was a kid. I had a research project. The teacher said you guys have to become someone that was influential in Black history, and I found out about Dr. Daniel Hale Williams, who was the first African American to perform open heart surgery, and immediately I said I want to do that. And everything after that was a step towards becoming a cardiologist. So now I'm here and I'm loving it so far.
Also want to welcome Ashley Joi, former D1 track and field athlete, personal trainer, lifestyle influencer, my personal online trainer actually through CenterFit. I like to think you're my personal trainer. Welcome. So excited to have you here. And so the most exciting title for you is soon to be mother. How are you? How are you doing? How's it all going?
Oh, I want to say thank you so much for having me, and everything is going very, very well. I am due in March and super excited about that. And I think it's the biggest blessing and the biggest lifestyle change I was not you're never prepared 100% for, but it is the best experience ever.
Doctor, you're a recent father. You can corroborate on that, yes?
100%. I, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you ask, did not have to bear the changes with my body. But I think it's been a beautiful thing to watch my wife, and I think Ashley, you're continuing to enter into a great journey. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. And congratulations to you as well.
I'm just a proud auntie, always and forever. So I get that's the joy that I get to have. Less diapers in my world, but lots and lots of fun and joy.
Sure.
Let's dive into our topic today. I feel like these last few years have been a very interesting time to think about how to be healthier, how to be fitter, and it seems strange to think that we wouldn't have our entire lives thought about had this at the forefront of our minds, but suddenly now it really is. Like our health is just so important and something that we're thinking about more every day. So first, I'd love Ashley. I'm going to ask you first. How do you differentiate between health and fitness?
Oh, so health and fitness is, I think the best example is to go out and watch a marathon, right? Your fitness level, everyone who's running is fit enough to run a marathon. Now, how healthy they are is more like dependent on, what their food intake is, their habits. Some people have sweet tooths, right? They literally can have burgers, fries, Coke, and they can still run a marathon. And then there's other people who completely are very health conscious, like a balanced diet, water intake, everything like that. And I think that's the difference between it. Just like how people have the whole concept of skinny fat, and you can be thin, and people will think that you're fit, but you may not be healthy. So those are kind of like the more lifestyle, very applicable differences between fitness and healthy. You can be very strong, but have horrible eating habits. Sleep is not, that well. So that's my take on that.
And doctor, how about you? What can you? I have a feeling you concur, but what can you add to that, helping people understand how to think about these two concepts differently?
I mean, I think that's a great analogy and an example and recommendation for people to go and watch Marathon because I kind of see that on a day-to-day basis with patients in my office, right? I can have someone that's skinny per their weight or their body mass index, right? But they have the worst cholesterol, they have uncontrolled diabetes or raging high blood pressure, right? So although you can look one way, that does not necessarily mean that you're healthy. And similarly, I have, some of the athletes that I care for are not healthy people by the standards of, health when we're looking at disease processes in their labs and et cetera. However, they're very fit and they're able to go and perform at their at the top of their ability, right? So there's definitely a nuance between the two, and they don't necessarily run together.
Sticking with you, Doctor, how, especially in these last couple years, have you had to change your approach professionally to things like health and fitness when you're talking to your patients? Because we live in this a very different world now. So how have you had to adapt to this new age that we're living in?
Yeah, I think the one of the biggest things that I've found has occurred during these last two, it's 3 years now, I guess now, has been really to get patients to refocus on health, right? Everyone has now taken a new, I guess, interest in their overall health, and maybe because of everything going on, it's been more of an infectious health, but the pandemic has also given a lot of people time to realize that they haven't been as active as they should be, and they have now tried to realize that some things are taking effect that they didn't necessarily want, particularly like weight gain, which a lot of people gained a lot of weight during this time because of inactivity. You're not going to work or to school as often as you were. Sports took a pause, and so we were stuck in the home for so long, and our day-to-day activities, even running errands, were halted. And because of that, our energy expenditure was halted. Our calorie losses was not happening as much. And so I really had to counsel patients about just getting back into the groove of doing things and refocusing on what health is and what it is for them, and finding the best ways to do that. And so during that time, that's kind of been the biggest thing that I've been experiencing when I'm talking to patients and myself personally, right? Because it's been so busy, I've had to find a lot of times, a lot of different times and a lot of different ways to make sure that I am maintaining my level of fitness and my level of appropriate health intake. And so it's been an interesting path during this time, but it's been something that thankfully I've been able to do well with my patients.
And it's really actually interesting, like how, especially during the pandemic, it affected different people. Personally, for me, it actually kicked me into the mindset of understanding how my health affected other people, right? Actually, towards the beginning of the pandemic, I actually started working out more than I ever had because I said, okay, my one job right now is to be healthy so that I can help anybody around me that might fall ill. Things have fallen off since then. We'll get to that later. But I will say, like, it changed my mindset about that. So, Ashley, like, over to you. Like, how have you professionally, things changed professionally for you with how everybody's just thinking differently about their health?
Yeah, the demand, and I think the respect to people who are trainers or who are in the industry of fitness, actually the curtains opened up and it was like, oh, these aren't just people, yelling or screaming at people or telling people to do push-ups for like no reason. These are people who actually have a genuine purpose. And that demand became extreme with online, and every company, didn't matter if it was in food or beauty products, they wanted a trainer to do a workout, and the demand was just more than I could have ever imagined. But it was so fulfilling to help people and to connect with people, and to know that like my 30-minute workout, my 20-minute workout, or me saying, where's everyone from, or connecting with people through a screen, was making their day better by something really small. And also getting people to move, and also just doing what I love and to reach people. That was like the main thing. And I truly, truly appreciated how all types of walks of life, age, didn't matter whether they had worked out, consistently before that, showed up. And I think a lot of people should give themselves credit that there was no one watching them. There was no one, telling them that they had to wake up and to do that 8 o'clock in the morning live or that 12 p.m. or that 7 o'clock. People really showed up for themselves during the pandemic, which also made me show up for them even more because we were all going through something. It was scary. It was uncertain, but fitness, just like sports for me, always brought people together, and I really love that aspect. And I love that I was like on the forefront of that during a very uncertain time.
It just made it more accessible, I think, like, and it's just now changed the game for forever, right? That everyone's just realizing that it can be a part of their life in ways that they didn't think before, as far as like exercise and being healthy. I'm going to add another word into this conversation, right? We just talked about health, we talked about fitness. I'm going to add this word of wellness now. So, Ashley, sticking with you, what does wellness personally mean to you, and how is it its own separate category?
I think wellness, if for me personally, is an overall check within yourself. How are you feeling, right? Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. It's a whole umbrella effect. With the umbrella effect, obviously, there's a lot of gray area that can happen, but overall, it's how are you feeling? And there's different entities of how you feel and why you feel. You can feel very, very happy because you got 8 hours of sleep, or the sun is out, or you have a job interview, or things like that. And wellness is making sure that everything is aligning, right? That you are aligned with health, what you eat, with your sleep, with your mental or your emotional state. Wellness can even go into like your job, right? Like what you do for a living and how it affects you and your mood. And so, yes, wellness is this big umbrella, and there's different entities between it. But always, when you want to check in on yourself and your wellness or the well being of someone else, it's asking them, how are they? Like, how are they doing? How do you feel? How are you doing? And that's how I define wellness with enjoy life. Ashley Joy, joy, bring happiness. Had to like tie that in there. But overall, it's how are you doing?
And meaning it. I think it's interesting. I've been to other countries where here in the States, hey, what's up? How you doing? Is a rhetorical, it's almost just like a hello, right? Or a nod. We say it as we pass each other. In other countries, I've said that, and I've actually had people stop me and say, no, when you ask me that question, you need to stop and wait for my answer. Because I feel like when you ask me that and walk on by, I don't like so I love that, and I've actually taken that from other cultures of like, you can't just use how are you as a what's up, see you later. Um, I've actually like I think about that a lot. Doctor, how about you? How does wellness fit into to what you do on a daily basis with your patients?
I completely agree with Ashley. I start every one of my patient encounters asking my patient, "How are you doing?" And it's a real question as opposed to a formality, right? Because a lot of patients, as you can imagine, by the time you're coming to see me, the cardiologist, you probably have some issues that you really want addressed. And so patients walk in with a lot of angst, and sometimes they're in a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain. And sometimes they're just nervous because someone told them to come see the cardiologist and they have no idea why. And so, when I have a patient that's coming in ready to just kind of go off and ask all these questions, I first start with, but how are you doing? Right? So it's very important for me to know how your well-being is. How are things going in your life? How are things that may affect whatever reason you're here? How are those things playing out, right? Because that's what goes into wellness. It's not necessarily just about the disease process, right? It's not just about the what we call the chief complaint. When a patient comes in and they have a specific thing that's concerning them, it's not just about that, but it's how all the other factors tie into what's bringing you to that equation. So I mean, again, Ashley did a great job in laying out all the different things that play a role, right? Your sleep, your job, your mental health, your relationships with your significant other, your ability to spend time with or be with your kids. You know, some people, they're not able to have kids. There's all these things that play into how someone is doing, and then that leads to why they may have to come see me, the cardiologist. So I think wellness is a big thing that has been, you know, thankfully talked about as of late, more recently, and will continue to. I think there are also, as Ashley alluded to, gray areas, right? And times when the industry can take advantage of wellness, right? And there's a product for everything now, and there's this and there's that you can kind of tap into to improve your wellness. And I think I always like patients just take a step back and realize that a lot of wellness starts from within, right? A lot of your wellness and your well-being starts with how you are living and managing things in your world, and how you're finding those ways to get assistance to help with other things. And so that's why I love when a patient comes to see me. I love when a patient is telling me they're seeing their therapist. Whatever it is that is helping you improve your wellness, that's going a long way in helping you improve your overall health, which can then lead to other facets of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of it just starts right here. Which sort of like leads into the next question about, you know, how, you know, maybe like whether it's just we're all getting into, I feel like everyone at some point gets into, whether it's a rut or they're starting from a point that's not great and they need to know how to get out of it. You're either digging yourself out of a hole or trying to just start fresh and get yourself on a good track. Personally, I am in one of those spots, right? I am working too much on something that I do love, but it takes a lot of time. You know, I've got a lot of external, like, personal things going on that are taking mental energy, which then like drains your physical energy. There's so much going on, and while I had mentioned earlier, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was so focused on my health, my fitness, my wellness, that has now tapered off as I've gotten back into, you know, being able to focus on work and other things. So I am personally in one of these ruts, and at a point that I do not want to be at. I am skinny fat right now. That's Ashley. And so I love, and for me, it's sort of, I know that for me, it's just like, I just need to find that one day where I can take that one first step, right? And I think that's where I need to get to, and I'm having a hard time with it, and I'll get there. But for you guys, like, have you ever been at that point, as people who are experts in this field and know how important all this is? Have you ever had times where you felt like you faltered? How do you get yourselves out of it? And what do you recommend to other people, me, to help get us out of our our slumps?
I can personally say that I have had moments of falling off. The biggest one that I had was more in college. I suffered depression in college, and that really affected me on the track. You know, not being able to sleep and to eat, and just how depression like takes over your body. Even though I was a Division I track and field athlete, it definitely slowed me down and, you know, affected me a lot. But I knew that it was the resources, my therapist, my support team, and, you know, making sure I ate as much as I could and slept as much as I could, and, you know, truly overcame that within college, and then got out of college and started working before I was in training. And just like you, working when you first get your first full 40-hour job is ridiculous. The first week I was so tired, and you kind of just get into this habit of working and, you know, going out with friends and doing this and doing that, and like life is fun, you know, like you want to enjoy life and you want to do all this, and you don't realize like your health, especially when you're young. For me at the time, you just kind of take it for granted. And until someone said to me, like, you look like you used to do sport. And I was like, used to? That was like 2 years ago. What do you mean used to? Like, it kickstarted me and realized, like, that is something that I truly, truly love. And I never want to look like I used to do something that really defines my happiness and what I truly, truly love. And I think a good indication of falling off and getting back on is always going back to things that bring you happiness and joy, that are healthy. Okay. There has to be something that's healthy that brings you happiness and joy. But finding your support system, whether it's someone who has the same drive, and it could be in another field, right? Like if someone a friend loves something else, but you love it, and you guys connect, and you push and you inspire one another, you need someone to hold you accountable. And sometimes social media is a great place to be held accountable. Sometimes it could be the absolute worst place. Again, it's always about, checking in with yourself and understanding that it's part of life. We fall off, and just like sport, there's an off season, there's a preseason, there's the peak, that's life. And that's how I relate to life, how I relate to my clients, how I relate to people. You can't be on 100%, and never give yourself that pressure. And it's okay to take a rest and learn from the times when you have quote unquote fallen off. Maybe you needed to focus on something else, and maybe you needed that rest to really figure out what you want, and always go back to your why you're doing what you're doing. And if it doesn't serve you anymore, because sometimes we just get into a schedule that we just think, and it could still be a healthy schedule, but if it doesn't serve you anymore, you need to reevaluate and get back on track. So don't ever think the falling off is a negative. It's just leading you to exactly where you need to be.
Yeah, I think it's the difference between motivating yourself and shaming yourself, right? Mm-hmm. We need to not do that. But, Doctor, how about you? I feel like, this is on your mind every single second of the day in some respects. So how has it been for you? Have you had peaks and valleys, or how do you manage all of this?
Yeah, I think every single person has those peaks and valleys, right? It's as you just alluded to, the concept of someone always being 100% at their best is inconceivable, and it's unrealistic. Again, I'm going to always bring things to a cardiovascular viewpoint, but take a patient that I have do a stress test, right? And they're running on a treadmill. And the point of the treadmill is for you to continue to go up until you hit your peak. But no one can hit their peak and sustain that peak, right? In the exercise and kinesiology world, we talk about Vo2 Max, right? I'm sure a lot of people have heard about that, but it's basically talking about the way that your body can utilize oxygen, and it's the maximum point when your body can utilize that oxygen. But there's a reason that it's called Vo2 Max, right? Because you max out, and you can't stay there the whole time. And I think that goes the same with the ebbs and flows that people have in their overall wellness and lifestyle when it comes to always eating healthy, always staying in the gym, always being happy. All these things come up and down. Myself personally, as you alluded to, I have consistently always been in a situation where I guess I was reminded either consciously or unconsciously to try to maintain health. And even at the times where I was not my healthiest, so let's say like in med school, when things were the busiest and my time was very limited, and it was either studying, being in class, taking an exam, or trying to sleep, right? There was just a cycle of that. There wasn't much time to make sure that I was eating the healthiest and doing all these things. And because of that, I kind of doubled down on myself to kind of force myself to maintain a good health and maintain good lifestyle habits. But the worst part was diet, right? That's such a hard thing. And I remember vividly, actually remember learning about the bad effects of significant consumption of meat, right? Particularly like hot dogs. And I thought to myself, when I learned that immediately, I said, well, I eat hot dogs all the time, right? Because hot dogs in med school was the easiest thing for me to make, right? It's very quick. I take my study break. I can't go and make this nice, curated plant-based meal right now, right? And then
I
I
used to put a
learned
Kraft single on my hot dogs and like throw it in the microwave as a
that's
kid.
that gourmet. That's that gourmet topping. I get you. So that was one of the moments where I realized, wow, my diet is terrible, right? And I'm going to the gym very frequently because again, I'm in med school. I know the difference between being healthy, being fit. I know that I need to stay on top of things. But my diet was terrible, and I had to kind of reevaluate. Not that I was doing anything wrong, but you don't know what you don't know. And so I think that is kind of a big, I guess, point that I would like to drive across to people that, sometimes you fall off and sometimes it's for reasons that may be unbeknownst to you. And so it's really about you tapping into yourself, readjusting, and getting yourself back out there and remembering that it is okay to go up, it is okay to go down, as long as you refocus and try to put yourself in a area that you can continue to maintain. And the whole point is just to go forward. I tell my patients every single time that I don't want you to go outside and run a marathon tomorrow. I just want you to go and take that first step. And I think that's the most important thing that someone can really walk away from my clinic with, saying that, okay, I don't have to be at my best tomorrow, but I need to just start the journey to get there. And I think that's the biggest thing that I like to take, upon myself, but also to be able to bestow to my patients.
I think it's about knowing that, like, you feeling like you're at your fittest and feeling like you're at your healthiest, you're not going to necessarily be those two things aren't going to be always the same, right? Kind of like how we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation. I think a lot about, actually, like, I think about the movies and the superhero movies where all of these actors go through these, are trying to get insanely fit, but it's mostly just for about like how the physical look of it is on camera. And a lot of time when they're doing their big, shirtless scene or whatever it is, they're almost like dehydrating themselves to a really significant point, right? So they can look on screen as if they're the healthiest and fittest person on earth, but really when they're doing that, they are not. They are depriving their bodies of what they need. So little things like that, like, just, I think it's always good to keep in mind about, the visual versus like the feel, right? You need to keep both those things in mind at all times. One thing I want to jump into this because, we are with Angel City Football Club. We are a women's professional sports team, and fitness, and specifically for women, is something that needs to be thought about, right? There are biological differences between men and women, and that means we can't just have one set of rules of how to be healthy. So I think it's just essential to focus on some things that women particularly should know as they go through their health journey. So, Doctor, I'll start with you. What are some things that you think women really should know about how to stay on track and think about their health as a woman biologically?
That's a great question, because I think it's not often discussed, both in the healthcare industry and the fitness industry, and amongst women themselves. And it's a particular area as a sports cardiologist that I like to address with my women patients, because there are biological differences, there are hormonal changes, there are all of these physiologic things that go into what makes someone tick, right? And particularly for women who have to constantly go through these cyclical changes throughout their life, there's a lot of adaptation that continues to need to be had. And so I think the biggest things to address and be aware of are, as I alluded to before, the hormonal changes, right? So starting in adolescent years and with the start of the menstrual cycle, the body starts to go through these changes, and there's hormonal fluctuations that are not just affecting the way that a woman holds fluids in her body, or that the way that she holds her fat distribution in her body, but it's also affecting things like her arteries and her heart rate and her actual heart function. Plenty of studies have proven that there are true physiologic changes between men and women in exercise. There's something we call exercise-induced cardiac remodeling, and it's different in men and women depending on the type of genetic profile they have, the type of exercise, the intensity that they do, but again, also based off of their hormonal changes. There's big differences when it comes to premenopausal versus postmenopausal women, right? When it comes to diet changes, a diet and certain types of food affect women differently than it does men. And for many women, especially those that are elite athletes that play sports or that do it recreationally, some of them can be have their hormones affected, right? And they have something called amenorrhoea. And what happens in that situation is that they are no longer having normal menstrual cycles. And during that time, that's affecting your estrogen content in your body, right? Estrogen is a huge hormone that's very important when it comes to cardiovascular health. There's a reason that women actually have a better cardiovascular health profile than men up until the time they hit menopause, because at that point, that's when the estrogen drops. And so for athletes, their estrogen levels fluctuate more commonly, similar to that of someone that's postmenopausal. And so that has huge implications when it comes to the vascular health and of a woman and things like that. So, it's very important that we discuss these things, because if we don't, then they're not talked about, and a woman can be having these changes that occur, and she just may think, oh, I'm not healthy, I'm not fit, when really there's a organic and biological reason for that. And one other important point is about diet and eating habits, right? Unfortunately, a lot of athletes, a lot of women, men as well, but particularly women, deal with body dysmorphia and have a lot of eating disorders. And those eating disorders can affect women more than they affect men, because again, it affects their hormonal changes, their menstrual cycles, which then have a huge role into leading to cardiovascular disease. And we know that there's reversible treatments for those things. So it's something we have to talk about. It's not addressed enough, and so I'm glad we're having that conversation.
Yeah, we get to go through puberty, and then we get to have menstrual cycles, and then we have things like we have pregnancy that we deal with, and then menopause, right? So yeah, it's just fun the whole way through, right, Ashley?
It is. It's the joy and the beauty and the responsibility of being a woman. And I love all the things that you highlighted, especially hormonally and medically for women in sport, and also love to highlight how important it is for girls and women to be physically active, and how it truly benefits our well-being, our bone density, our muscle mass. Yes, we have a lot of things that happen in our body, but we are made to move, and we are efficient beings that can move as efficient or strong and smooth as a man. And it definitely helps with a girl or a woman's self-confidence. Body awareness is amazing that comes with sport. The team bonding, also just learning who you are as a person happens in sport, happens in movement, and is really important for developmental within boys and girls, but is something that is kind of new to the female world, right? Because of sport and the restrictions that were placed on us in the past. And so we are just seeing the beginning of how amazing female athlete and females are out there on the court, in the field, on the track, anywhere, whether they're behind the wheel, race car driving, everything. So I think that, yes, we are different in our own unique way. And I think that the world is opening up into accepting and understanding and becoming a place where it is okay to be different, and it's okay to be a woman at any stage of their life, whether it's just starting out as a young girl starting her menstrual cycle, or a woman like myself who's pregnant and I can go out and run, or I can go out and walk and people won't look at me like, whoa, you're not supposed to be moving, or I can lift weights and it's okay. So I think women overall have overcome a lot of things just to move, just to go run. The first woman running a marathon and just and everything like that. And I love sport. I love women in sport. I love what it does mentally, emotionally, and physically for our bodies, but for everyone's body. It's a common ground that I think that is just amazing.
I'll even add to that really quick that, as you mentioned, the first woman that ran a marathon was 1967, and at that time she was, ridiculed and shunned, and some of the officials tried to make her not finish the race.
Physically hurt,
Crazy.
yeah.
Right. And since then, most marathons in majority of countries are actually predominantly ran by women, right, over 50% each time. So there's been a huge awakening and a huge reckoning, I should say, that has occurred, and it's a beautiful thing for people to continue to realize and accept the fact that women are doing things that they need to be doing and that they want to be doing, and have a right to be doing, and they're doing it very well when they're doing it. So it's a beautiful thing for us to continue to see, and we hope to continue to see it more.
Yes, and there's space
We are made for
everyone.
it. We're made for it.
Yes.
Well, this has been amazingly helpful, I think, not just to our audience, but I would say to me personally. I feel like this has been my own private, personal counseling session. And so I know it'll be helpful for others. But as we wrap up, we always like to end sort of like, what is one thing, whether it's something we haven't talked about yet or one thing we have talked about that you just really want to drive home? What's one last thought that you want to put out there? Doctor, I'll start with you.
I think the biggest thing that I always want to emphasize is for people to just move, for them to get up and do something. Again, as someone who studies sports and exercise, it's so important for me to always emphasize to my patient that doing something is better than nothing. And getting out there and being active in any capacity is going to truly improve your overall health. It's going to decrease your risk of chronic diseases like cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure. It's going to improve your happiness. It's going to improve your mental health. It's going to improve your physique. So really just getting out there and move. And there's a big difference between exercise and physical activity. I always like to emphasize that as well. And that difference is that physical activity is just doing something, right? It's not sitting and being sedentary. It's not just sitting on the couch. It's actually just going for that walk or being active, right? Whereas exercise is more of an intense and regimented type of physical activity. And I always tell people, you don't have to start with the exercise. Start with physical activity. Start with the mindset and the habit of just getting out there and move. You do that little by little, and you're going to continue to make big gains that are going to lead to the best you. And so that's the biggest thing I like people to leave home with.
Ashley, how about you? What's the parting thought?
I love to push to everyone that they deserve to enjoy life and do things to bring them joy. And whether that is movement, whether that's theater, whether that's being creative artistically, whether it's you bringing people together, whatever it is that brings you joy, do that and make sure that it pushes your life forward. That's the main thing that I want everyone to know. And yes, get out and exercise and run and play dodgeball and do all the other stuff, but no matter what, it's about your happiness, and your well-being will influence your health, and your health will influence your fitness level. Your fitness level will influence how active you are and how fit you are. And so it all ties together, but it all starts with yourself. If anything that we learned from the pandemic is we have to put our oxygen on first before we help anyone else. So make sure you're okay before setting out into the world.
I love that. I do. All right. Thank you guys so much for this. I'm very grateful, and I know that everyone who gets to watch this is too. How can everyone keep up with you, follow you, be able to continue to learn from both of you? Ashley, what can how can we keep up with you?
Yeah, so you can find me ashleyjoi.com. That's Ashley with the Y and Joy with an I. Also, the same with my Instagram. I'm going to be having a prenatal program drop with an amazing other trainer. Her name is Hannah Joy. Bundle of Joy is coming your way. It's going to be lifestyle. It's going to be bigger than just working out. It's going to be a place where women can come together, be seen, people can come together and feel supported. Cannot wait. That's going to drop in March, and my baby drops in March. And look out for the summer to have some events, and hopefully maybe you guys can be part of Bundle of Joy as well.
Phenomenal. And Doctor, how about you? How can we keep track of what's going on in your world?
Yeah, likewise, you can keep track of me mainly on social media. At my Instagram is my first name, Merije. TikTok and Instagram, I really like to really post content that's catered towards individuals and their lifestyle, but obviously most importantly their health and their cardiovascular health. The other thing that I continue to do is practice medicine, right? So if you feel like you need a cardiologist or really just have questions about anything that we spoke about today, or not only yourself, but you have a family member, a parent, an aunt, uncle, I'm here, and I, again, practice out of Beverly Hills at Cedar Sinai. So always accepting new patients, always willing and hoping to be able to meet new people that I can be a part of their journey and helping them get to the best them. So those are the best ways to get in touch with me, and hopefully I hear from you guys soon.
Wonderful. Well, happiness and joy on the horizon for hopefully everybody. That's what we're here for. Thank you for joining us for this Birdies conversation, and look forward to many more in the future. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.